There are moments in life when danger does not arrive loudly. It does not announce itself with obvious signs or dramatic warnings. Instead, it exists quietly at the edges of ordinary routines, hidden beneath familiar places, familiar faces, and moments that seem completely harmless on the surface. Most people move through their lives believing threats are always visible, always easy to recognize. But the truth is that some risks develop slowly through observation, secrecy, and manipulation that often goes unnoticed until much later. What matters most in situations like these is not fear, but awareness. The story unfolding around you begins with an investigation that appeared routine at first. Authorities had been tracking suspicious activity connected to a group of individuals for some time. There were reports of illegal behavior, hidden operations, and evidence suggesting that vulnerable people may have been placed at risk. Nothing about the situation felt random. Every discovery pointed toward careful planning and deliberate secrecy. When officers finally moved in, they already understood the situation carried serious risk. The location itself appeared quiet from the outside, curtains drawn, minimal movement, nothing dramatic enough to alarm nearby neighbors. But trained investigators often recognize that silence can sometimes hide far more than noise ever could. They approached carefully, knowing uncertainty creates danger for everyone involved. Inside the house, tension escalated quickly. Some individuals appeared ready to cooperate once they realized authorities had surrounded the property. Others panicked. Fear has a way of exposing people's true instincts under pressure. While some choose accountability when consequences arrive, others react recklessly in desperate attempts to maintain control. In this case, one person's refusal to surrender peacefully created a chain of events that ended violently and permanently changed the direction of the investigation. After the immediate threat was contained, officers began searching the property carefully. At first, they expected to find the typical evidence connected to organized criminal behavior: records, devices, hidden materials, anything that could explain the larger operation. But as the search continued, the situation became far more disturbing than anyone initially realized. The deeper investigators looked, the clearer it became that this was not isolated behavior or temporary misconduct. There were signs of long-term planning, systems designed to monitor, organize, and potentially target individuals without their knowledge. And among the files discovered were photographs and personal details connected to multiple people. That is where the emotional weight of the story changes, because among those images was one connected to you, not because you were involved in wrongdoing, not because you invited danger, but because someone had been observing your life quietly from a distance without your awareness. That realization can feel deeply unsettling because it challenges a person's sense of safety and control. Most people expect threats to come from obvious strangers, but many real-life risks develop through people who blend into ordinary surroundings unnoticed. What makes situations like this psychologically disturbing is not only the invasion of privacy, but the awareness that someone may have been paying attention while appearing completely harmless on the surface. Often, individuals involved in manipulative or predatory behavior rely on familiarity to avoid suspicion. They present themselves as ordinary people. They study routines. They notice habits. They learn details quietly over time. That hidden observation creates a sense of vulnerability once discovered, because it forces someone to reconsider interactions or environments they previously trusted. However, the most important truth here is this: discovery changed everything. The moment authorities uncovered evidence, the secrecy protecting those actions collapsed. The danger lost its invisibility. What remained hidden became exposed. and exposure matters because threats grow strongest in silence and isolation. Once brought into the open, they can be investigated, interrupted, and prevented from escalating further. There is also another important emotional layer to understand. Many people blame themselves after discovering they were being observed, manipulated, or quietly targeted in some way. They replay ordinary moments searching for what they, quote, should have noticed. They wonder whether they missed signs others would have seen earlier. But the reality is that manipulative individuals often rely specifically on appearing ordinary and unthreatening. The responsibility belongs entirely to the person engaging in harmful behavior, not the individual unknowingly being observed. The investigators involved likely recognized immediately how serious the situation was once personal photographs and records were uncovered. Every image represented a real person with a real life, someone who had no idea their privacy had been violated. Cases involving secret observation or targeting often reveal disturbing patterns because the behavior rarely focuses on only one individual. It usually reflects broader attempts at control, exploitation, or manipulation carried out over time. That is why these investigations become so emotionally intense for everyone involved. The evidence no longer feels abstract once real identities are connected to it. Suddenly, the case is no longer only about criminal activity in general terms. It becomes personal, human, immediate. The individual connected to your photograph was apparently not a complete stranger in the traditional sense. That detail matters because proximity creates opportunity. Many harmful situations develop through people who move within ordinary social spaces unnoticed. They may not appear threatening outwardly. They may know familiar locations, routines, or mutual connections. That familiarity often allows observation to continue longer without suspicion. Still, what matters most now is not fear, but understanding how awareness creates protection. Once harmful behavior is exposed, patterns become visible that were hidden before. Investigators can connect evidence. Victims or potential targets can be informed. Safety measures can be strengthened. Most importantly, the secrecy that allowed the behavior to continue loses power. Hidden intentions rely heavily on remaining unseen. Discovery interrupts that advantage completely. Emotionally, learning something like this would naturally leave anyone shaken. Realizing your image or personal information existed inside a criminal investigation creates understandable discomfort. It can make ordinary routines suddenly feel unfamiliar. You may question who noticed you, when observation began, or how close the person really was. Those reactions are human. Situations involving hidden surveillance or targeting affect people deeply because they disrupt the normal sense of safety most individuals rely on daily. But there is also reassurance in one critical fact: the danger was interrupted before it could continue further. That matters enormously. Too often, people imagine safety only as the absence of threats. In reality, safety also comes from awareness, intervention, and exposure. The reason investigations exist is precisely because harmful behavior can remain hidden until evidence brings it into the light. Once exposed, the ability for those involved to continue operating quietly becomes dramatically weakened. There is another truth worth understanding too. Situations like this often reveal how important intuition and awareness truly are. Many people ignore small feelings of discomfort because they worry about seeming paranoid or overreactive. But healthy awareness is not fearfulness. Paying attention to unusual behavior, respecting personal boundaries, and remaining cautious about privacy are practical forms of self-protection in the modern world. That does not mean living in constant anxiety. It means recognizing that personal safety includes emotional awareness as much as physical caution. What happened here is ultimately a story about hidden danger becoming visible before it could remain hidden any longer. It is about the unsettling reality that harmful people sometimes move quietly through ordinary spaces unnoticed. But it is also about intervention, discovery, and the collapse of secrecy once truth surfaces. Most importantly, it is a reminder that your worth, safety, and humanity matter enough for systems of protection to exist at all. Investigators search carefully because every photograph represents a real person. Every file belongs to someone with a life deserving privacy and safety. Every discovery matters because it prevents silence from protecting harmful behavior any further. And while the emotional weight of realizing your image was connected to something dangerous may take time to process fully, one thing remains clear. What was hidden is hidden no longer. Close enough to blend in, close enough to appear normal, and that is what made him dangerous. Because evil rarely announces itself loudly, it hides behind familiarity. He watched quietly, he learned routines, he noticed details you never thought mattered. He collected information piece by piece, never rushing, never exposing himself, and you never knew, because you were never supposed to. But listen carefully, my child. This is not a message of fear. This is a message of timing, because what was planned never reached you. What was imagined never touched your life. What was intended was stopped before it could take form. Protection does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like nothing happened. Sometimes it feels like a normal day. Sometimes it feels like a delay, a change of plans, a sudden tiredness that kept you inside. Those moments are not meaningless. They are shields. You felt something recently, a heaviness, a strange awareness, a need to pull back. That was not anxiety. That was intuition trying to keep you safe. Your spirit sensed something your mind could not explain yet. You were never alone in this. You were being watched, not by those who meant harm, but by forces that move before danger arrives. Intervention came early, quietly, completely. And now you are being told this not to scare you, but to teach you something important. Not everything that approaches you belongs in your life. Not every smile is safe. Not every opportunity is aligned. When something is meant for you, it will bring clarity, not confusion. Peace, not fear. Stability, not constant doubt. Stop forcing what feels wrong. Stop ignoring the signals your body and spirit give you. Those signals are not weakness. They are protection. Your life is moving into a new phase now. A phase where discernment becomes stronger, where clarity replaces confusion, where you no longer question your worth or safety. What tried to reach you has already been removed. What tried to harm you has been ended completely. Rest tonight. You are safe. You are protected. And what comes next is not fear, but peace. My child, there is something very important you must understand now. Because when danger comes close and then disappears, the mind often tries to minimize it. It says, nothing really happened. It says, maybe I imagined it. But silence after danger is not emptiness. It is evidence that something was stopped. The reason you are hearing this now is because your spirit is ready to receive the truth without fear controlling you. If you had known earlier, it would have shaken you too deeply. So timing mattered. Protection always arrives before understanding. And understanding comes only when it can strengthen you, not break you. The man connected to your picture believed he had time. He believed he was unseen. He believed his thoughts were private and his plans were secure. That belief was his greatest mistake, because while he was watching you, someone else was watching him. While he was collecting, tracking, and planning, a net was already closing around him. Step by step, quietly, patiently. You never saw him as a threat because he never acted like one. That is how these things work. Real danger rarely announces itself. It studies, it waits, it blends into daily life. It looks harmless enough to be ignored. That is why your instincts felt confused. Your body sensed something, but your mind could not find a reason. There were moments when you felt tired for no clear reason. Moments when you canceled plans without knowing why. Moments when you chose to stay home instead of going out. Moments when you felt watched but dismissed it quickly. Those moments were not random. They were adjustments, subtle shifts that kept you out of reach without you even realizing it. You need to hear this clearly now. You were never powerless in this situation. You were protected before you were threatened, covered before you were exposed, watched over before you were ever watched by the wrong eyes. The timeline never belonged to him. It belonged to protection. When everything ended and the truth surfaced, it became clear that his intentions were not sudden. They were not impulsive. They were rehearsed in his mind, long before action could ever take place. That is why the ending had to be final. There could be no second chance, no escape, no continuation. This is why the situation did not unfold slowly. This is why it did not turn into a chase or a negotiation. Some paths cannot be allowed to extend. Some intentions cannot be allowed to breathe longer. And that is exactly what happened. Now listen closely, because this message is shifting from what happened to why it matters for your future. From this moment forward, your discernment will feel sharper. You will notice energy before words, intention before action, silence before explanation. Do not ignore that. Do not talk yourself out of it. You have been shown that your intuition is not imagination. It is awareness. When something is meant for you, it will not feel heavy all the time. It will not drain you emotionally. It will not keep you in a constant state of anxiety or confusion. You will not feel like you are always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Alignment brings calm, even when challenges exist. Stop trying to force connections that make you uneasy. Stop chasing situations that require you to ignore your inner warning system. Peace is not boring. Peace is safety. Peace is clarity. Peace is knowing where you stand without guessing. You are not meant to live your life looking over your shoulder. You are meant to walk forward with confidence. What tried to come near you has already been removed from your path completely. Not delayed, not redirected, ended. Your past chapters may include confusion, self-doubt, and moments where you questioned your judgment. Release that now. You are not naive. You are not weak. You were simply protected without needing to fight. Understand the power of your thoughts moving forward. What you consistently think about becomes the lens through which you experience life. If you constantly replay fear, your body will live in tension even when danger is gone. If you constantly expect loss, you will struggle to receive peace when it arrives. Begin choosing different thoughts intentionally, not pretending everything is perfect, but recognizing when you are safe, recognizing when something has ended, recognizing when a season has closed. You are stepping into a period where your mind becomes quieter, where your nervous system finally rests, where your decisions feel clearer, where you no longer feel pulled in opposite directions. This is not accidental. It is the result of alignment. There will be opportunities ahead that feel different. They will not rush you. They will not pressure you. They will not confuse you. They will feel steady, respectful, clear, and you will recognize them because your body will not tense around them. Let go of the belief that struggle is normal. Struggle happens, but constant chaos is not meant to be your baseline. You were not created to live in survival mode forever. The next phase of your life is about rebuilding trust, first in yourself, then in life itself. You survived something you never even knew was approaching. That should remind you of your resilience, not frighten you. Rest now. You do not need to stay alert. You do not need to stay guarded. What was dangerous has passed. What remains is growth. My child, now that you know how close danger came and how completely it was stopped, there is something deeper you must allow yourself to feel. Not fear, but understanding. Because when protection intervenes so quietly, The mind often underestimates the weight of what was prevented, but prevention carries just as much power as rescue. You were spared from something that would have changed your life in ways you never deserved, not because you were stronger than others, not because you fought harder, but because your time is not over, and your purpose was never meant to be interrupted by someone else's darkness. This is why, even before you heard this message, something inside you had already begun to shift. You started seeing people differently. You became less tolerant of confusion. You felt an inner push to protect your peace. That was not coincidence. That was alignment beginning. After events like this, even when unseen, the soul matures. You begin to value calm more than excitement, safety more than thrill, truth more than validation, and that is a sign of growth, not fear. You may notice now that you no longer feel drawn to chaos the way you once were. Drama feels heavy. Uncertainty feels exhausting. People who play games with emotions feel draining. This is not you becoming cold. This is you becoming clear. Your system is recalibrating. Your mind is learning what safety actually feels like. And once you experience real protection, you can no longer romanticize instability. There were moments in your past when you blamed yourself for trusting the wrong people, staying too long, ignoring signs. Release that blame now. You did the best you could with the awareness you had at that time. Growth is not about shame, it is about clarity. From this point forward, your boundaries will feel stronger, even if you don't announce them. You will simply stop engaging where your energy is not respected. You will stop explaining yourself to people who benefit from misunderstanding you. You will choose distance without guilt. And here is something very important. Not everyone needs to know what you've survived. Some people only deserve to see who you've become. You are not meant to live cautiously forever, but you are meant to live consciously. Awareness does not limit you, it protects you, and protection gives you the freedom to move without fear. Your future connections will feel different. You will recognize safety not by excitement, but by calm, not by intensity, but by consistency, not by promises, but by behavior. And your body will respond before your mind does. Trust that response. Opportunities will also change. You will be drawn to paths that feel stable, grounded, and aligned. You will stop chasing outcomes and start choosing environments. You will understand that where you place yourself matters as much as what you do. There is also healing happening in you right now, even if you cannot fully name it yet. Healing from hypervigilance, healing from overthinking, healing from the need to always be alert. Your nervous system is learning that it is safe to rest. Sleep will feel deeper, breathing will feel easier, thoughts will slow down. These are not small changes, they are signs that your body recognizes safety again. Do not rush this process. Do not force yourself to move on. Integration takes time. Strength grows quietly. Remember this. What was meant to harm you was removed completely, not postponed, not redirected towards someone else. Ended. That chapter has no continuation. Now your responsibility is not to look back in fear, but to move forward in wisdom. Pay attention to how you feel around people. Pay attention to what drains you and what restores you. Pay attention to patterns that repeat and ask yourself why. Awareness is your new protection. You are entering a season where your life becomes simpler, not because it lacks depth, but because it lacks unnecessary weight. You will choose peace without apologizing. You will choose yourself without guilt. You will choose clarity over confusion every time. And the most powerful part of all of this is that you do not need to announce these changes. You do not need to explain them. Your life will speak for you. Rest in this truth now. You are safe. You are watched over. You are moving forward with unseen support, guiding every step. My child, now that your spirit has settled into the truth of what was prevented, there is a deeper layer unfolding inside you. Protection does not only remove danger, it reshapes direction. It quietly redirects your future without asking for permission. And that is exactly what is happening now. You may not notice it immediately, but your priorities are changing. Things that once felt urgent now feel unnecessary. People you once tried to please no longer hold the same power over your emotions. Situations that demanded too much from you now feel unbalanced. This is not you losing interest. This is you gaining clarity. There is a reason you are feeling less patient with confusion and more drawn to stability. Your system remembers what it feels like to be safe, and once safety is restored, the soul no longer wants chaos disguised as excitement. You are learning something very important now. Not everything that feels intense is meaningful, and not everything that feels calm is boring. Peace is not emptiness. Peace is alignment. Peace is knowing you do not have to constantly prepare for something to go wrong. From this point on, your discernment will operate quietly but firmly. You will sense when something is off long before it becomes obvious. And instead of questioning yourself, you will simply step back. That is wisdom, not fear. Do not mistake this new awareness for distance from life. You are not closing your heart. You are protecting it. You are choosing where to invest your energy with intention instead of impulse. You may also notice that certain people drift away naturally during this season, not because of conflict, but because alignment changes connection. Some people can only meet you where you were, not where you are going. Let them go without resentment. Release does not require explanation. Your future is not asking you to be smaller or quieter. It is asking you to be clearer. There is a clear shift in what you are being asked to return to within yourself here, and it is not urgency, attachment, or emotional reactivity. It is clarity, not the kind that comes from external reassurance, but the kind that forms slowly when you stop abandoning your own inner signals just to maintain connection, avoid discomfort, or keep something alive that is not consistently reciprocal. What is being emphasized is not emotional intensity, but emotional structure, knowing where you stand with yourself first, knowing what feels aligned and what does not, knowing the difference between connection that adds stability to your life and connection that quietly drains it while keeping you emotionally engaged through uncertainty or hope. This is the real foundation being described: steadiness. Not constant emotional highs or interpretive loops, but a more grounded internal state where you are no longer negotiating your own needs in order to maintain attachment. When that shift begins, your decisions naturally change. You stop choosing based on potential or emotional spikes and start choosing based on consistency, behavior, and actual experience over time. There is also an important nervous system layer to what you are describing. When a person has been in emotional uncertainty for a long time, their mind often stays in a scanning state, analyzing, predicting, reevaluating, trying to prepare for every possible outcome. That creates internal exhaustion. When things begin to stabilize, even gradually, the mind does not immediately trust the calm. It can feel unfamiliar or even uncomfortable at first, but that discomfort is not a warning. It is adjustment. It is your system learning that it does not have to stay on alert anymore. That is why silence, space, and emotional steadiness can feel strange at first. Not because something is wrong, but because your baseline is changing. You are moving away from survival-based emotional processing and toward regulated emotional awareness. That transition is not instant, but it is meaningful. At the same time, there is a strong reminder here about discernment. Not everything from the past needs to be emotionally reprocessed endlessly. Some experiences have already given you their meaning. Revisiting them repeatedly does not deepen understanding. It often just reopens emotional fatigue. There is a difference between reflection and reactivation. Reflection helps you grow. Reactivation keeps you stuck in cycles of emotional replay. What matters now is how you apply what you have learned. Not in theory, but in behavior. Do you notice when something feels steady versus when it feels uncertain but emotionally stimulating? Do you allow yourself to respond differently now, instead of defaulting to old patterns of overinvestment, overanalysis, or emotional overextension? That is where this phase becomes practical rather than conceptual. Clarity is not just awareness, it is adjustment. It shows up in what you choose to tolerate, what you step away from, and what you no longer justify to yourself. There is also a quiet but important truth in what you are describing. Not every ending needs emotional reprocessing to be valid. Some connections naturally conclude because they are not aligned long-term. Not because something went wrong in a catastrophic way, but because people evolve, timing shifts, or emotional needs no longer match. Accepting that reduces internal conflict significantly. From this perspective, stability becomes less of a distant goal and more of a daily practice. It is not something you arrive at once and permanently maintain. It is something you reinforce through repeated choices, choosing calm over chaos, clarity over assumption, presence over prediction. You also begin to notice something subtle but powerful. When you are internally regulated, your perception of others becomes more accurate. You are less likely to idealize, less likely to catastrophize, and more able to see patterns as they are. That does not make you detached. It makes you more grounded in reality. And from that grounded place, relationships either naturally stabilize or naturally fall away, not through force, but through truth. What is consistent remains consistent. What is unstable reveals itself without needing you to overanalyze it into clarity. The most important part of this phase is not control. It is alignment with yourself. When you are aligned internally, you do not need to chase certainty externally. You begin to trust your own sense of what feels right or misaligned. That trust becomes your anchor. So the real shift here is not about predicting the future or assigning meaning to everything that has happened. It is about building a way of being where you no longer abandon your own stability in order to maintain emotional uncertainty. And that is what creates lasting change. Not intensity, not insight alone, but the consistent return to yourself as the reference point.